Okay, how we doing, everybody? A lot of people have been asking me how to do the brake jobs on these, switching these out to the hydraulic brakes. As you can see, I've got, I got three high boys here. Love me some high boys. This is my P6. I put the hydraulic brakes on there, and I got them on the front as well, obviously. And I got my P7 here, and I put the hydraulic brakes on here. Actually, the P7 was the first bike I had. Put these hydraulic brakes on, ordered the P6, and swapped out the tires and the brakes before the thing had even half a mile on it. So I really like these brakes. They work out really well. Got over here a new EX6, and looky, still got the original brakes on it. So we're going to swap this out. Like I said, a lot of people have been asking, hey, how hard is it to do, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to show you. It's pretty simple. So let's get started. All right, well, I guess one of the first things I want to say is if you do a lot of work on bikes, highly recommend getting one of these bike stands, these bike racks. I bought this in here on Amazon. Got it pretty cheap. It was like 40 bucks maybe. Mounts right to my workbench. Lift the bike up. The only thing I can really say is, God, these bikes are heavy. So getting it up there sometimes takes 2 men and a boy, but once you get it up there, it makes working on bikes a whole lot easier. Obviously, you want to lighten the bike up as much as you can, take the battery out and so forth. But it certainly makes working on bikes a lot easier. All right, so first thing we got to do is we got to take the old cable off. And if you notice here, this manufacturer here looks like they put solder on the end of that. Usually you have a little aluminum cap on there or whatever to put on there. I recommend putting those on there. Actually, you can again go on eBay and buy little caps to put on there, a variety of different color. I keep saying eBay, Amazon, and you can buy different color caps. I put them on all my bikes. Looks like I used all the reds, so we'll have to pick another color, maybe just use silver. But it's always a good idea to put that on there. You don't want that cable to get frayed and you know, start splintering out, because it makes a mess, number one. Number two, it just looks bad, and you know, you go and you touch it and you may get a little wire in your finger or something that doesn't feel good. So anyway, so first thing we got to do though is we got to take the old cable off. So there's a little lockdown right here, and by the way, I'm using a 5mm hex head. So just turn that off and loosen it up, and then back that out a good little ways just to make sure you get it out. If there is a cap on there, you don't want to pull it off. And so you take that, pull the cable up and out of the way, and just kind of set it off to the side out of your way. And there you go. You got the brake caliper is now loose. I always take and then tighten that back up just so it doesn't eventually work out and you lose the screw. You never know, you may need to reuse this someday, so just put that somewhere safe and you can reuse it. Okay, so now we're ready to take the caliper off. If you notice, there's a bolt on the bottom and a bolt on the top here. Again, it's your 5mm, and these are going to be under pretty tight, so it's going to take a little bit of effort maybe to get those off. Take that off, and like I said, just get on. The bolts are going to be on there with some thread lock, so it's going to feel pretty easy at first, and it's going to be kind of weird. It's going to get tighter as you go for a couple of spins, and then it gets easy again. So like I said, just take both of the little hex heads off of there, back them all the way out, and the caliper will fall off in your hand. Let's take that. Oop, I just lost a couple of little washers there. It's not a big deal. We'll pick them up in a second. As these washers come off, though, it's always a good idea to pay attention to the order they're in. So it's never a bad idea. So let's take this off and slide it straight off. And there you go. There's your caliper. It's in your hand, and I just dropped some more washers. So there you go. It's always a good idea to inspect your rotor. Again, this is a brand new bike, so there shouldn't be too much wrong with the rotor. Trying to get this out of the way here. But it's always a good idea to check your rotor, make sure it's got what they often refer to as a lot of meat left on it. So if you got a used rotor, if you got a bike you've been riding for a number of years or whatever, just check for deep scratches and make sure there's still some thickness there. If there's not, that's a pretty easy change. Pop your tire off. You've got it's like 6 screws on here. You can back them out, put a new rotor on, pretty simple. Main thing to watch for when you replace it is make sure you get the right diameter. It will say on the rotor itself the size of it. You probably can't see it, but this one is 160. It's a 160 millimeter rotor. So if I want to replace it, that's what you get. Okay, so here is your the original, what do you want to call it, caliper, and here is the new ones. If you notice, they come with the mounting bracket. Obviously we left that on. I always leave it on because a couple things. That bracket that's on there is sized properly for this size of rotor. If you notice on here, it's got a front 160, rear 140. It'll say on there. But if you take this off, this is what sets your distance on your rotor. So I always just leave the one that's on there. You know it's right. And so we just kind of go with that. Again, just take your 5 millimeter and back that on out. Set that there. And back that on out. If you're replacing a set that's been got a few miles on it, then I would suggest using the new screws, just because they're new. Again, this is a brand new bike, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, on the new rotor, you've got this little tab right here. What this is just a little factory separator for the pads. Also, one other thing I want to mention is the little pads, and I'll show you this, and I'll put a link at the bottom. The pads that this brake caliper uses is different than the factory one. So when these pads wear down, don't look up the bike, look up the pads and order those pads. You'll be ordering the wrong pads. So just make sure you get the right pads. And again, I'll put a link down at the bottom of that. So here we go. We're going to take this out and we're going to install the new rotor. The new caliper on the rotor. Okay, so here we go. We've got the hardware on there. There's those spacers I had. It's very important to put those spacers back in as well. And so what you do is you just take and slide the rotor in between. Whoops, get the cable out of the way. Slide the rotor in between there. And get your screw lined up. Again, using the 5 millimeter. Now when you tighten these down, actually you don't tighten them down, just kind of get them down to where they are just in place and almost tight, because you're going to need to adjust this. This is slotted right here, so you can adjust it side to side. You'll need to adjust it to not rub on your rotor as the thing turns. So to properly adjust it at the end, again, just leave it no, not all the way tight. So okay, all right, so now we're gonna put the bottom one on here, and of course, like I said, you gotta use the same spacers that you took off of there. I always do that just because their engineers already figured out the spacing and the measurements and whatnot. We're not here to reinvent the wheel, no pun intended. And so just set it back up the way that it was, unless you are a mechanical engineer and you've got some reason to do it another way. So like I said, JCat, get it down to where it's snug, not tight, but snug. And then get this up here, snug it down just a little bit more. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to put the cable on here. We're going to set the cable length and whatnot, set the tension on the handle, and then once we get that all trued up with it depressed, this will be perfectly centered. Tighten both down, and it should be pretty well adjusted. Okay, so let's take this, bring it up through here, and run it down through the little holder there. Pull this down all the way to where that's seated. Make sure that that gets seated all the way in there. I've seen people take it and it's on the lip there. It's got a little lip. and then first time you hit those brakes, that's going to pop, and you're going to have little to no brakes. So make sure you get that all the way down inside of there. Take your 5mm, back this out right here, and snap your cable up underneath. There's a little notch right there. I don't know if you can see it there. There's a little notch. You want that on the side, like I don't have it. And it's being a little border. There we go. And so anyway, get your cable back in the back there. And as you can see, it's so simple to do. Get your cable back in behind there. There you go. Make sure that's seated all the way back there. And then tighten it down just a little bit just to keep it held in place. And then we're ready to adjust this so that you have optimum brakes. Okay, next thing you do is up here on your brake handle, you've got the adjustable little twisty thing here, just to be able to adjust that. Well, here's how I do it. Now, I've watched, oh God, I don't know, 20, 30 videos on how to adjust your brakes. All 20 or 30 of them were different. So, I'm not saying this is the only way. I'm not saying this is even the best way. This is the way I do it. If it works for me, it should work for you. If you've got another preferred method way of doing this, then hey, knock yourself out. So here's what I always do. I always take this and I bring this out a couple of turns, and that's where I leave it. Now, we'll come back. I'm going to adjust that once we get this cable set. We'll pull it back in, and you should have really pretty good brakes. So let's all move back down to the rotor now. Okay, we're back down here to the rotor, and so what I always do is take and pull this arm. This is the arm that actuates the brakes. I pull it as far as I can pull it, as tight as I can pull it right here. Pull this cable down so you're taking up all the slack out of there, and then take your 5mm wrench and then tighten that up the rest of the way. Now what's going to happen is that's now not going to move, and so actually if you go and hit the brake right now, that brake's going to be rock hard. It's got a little bit of play in it, but it's going to be rock hard. This thing's actually probably going to rub a little bit. You can hear it scraping just a little bit there. And so now with that set, I grab the handle and I go ahead and I make sure it's good and tight. That tire won't move at all now. And then now this is centered on the rotor. And so at this point now, I'll take and I'll tighten this top one down and the bottom one down. And I'll just get a good snug. I'm going to torque it down a little bit more. Again, these screws right here is what stops you. So you don't need to stand on it and put 200 foot-pounds of torque on it, but you do want it to be pretty tight. You want it to be snug. Last thing you want to be doing is flying down a hill and these little screws decide they want to come loose. So I tighten it down pretty snug, like I said. There we go. And then I let go of that again, and I don't hear anything rubbing, so that's good. Hit that brake again, and boom, you got brakes. So that's it in a nutshell. If when you get done with this, if it is rubbing a little bit, remember this adjustment we made at the top? Just screw it back in, quarter turn or whatever, until that stops. And what this is doing up top is it's giving you plenty of room for your adjustments as the brake pads wear. And that's pretty much it. Do the same thing on the back, and off you go. You should be good to go. Now, as you guys can see, this is a fat tire bike, 26 inch rim. This process is the same for any bike, whether it's an e-bike, whether it's a regular bike, it really doesn't matter. It's pretty much the same either way. I like to do it on these e-bikes. These e-bikes are heavy, very, very heavy. My opinion, the brakes that they come with, just a little light. And so you put these hydraulics on, you're going to notice a big difference. And so that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Thank you guys for watching, and if you have any comments, leave them at the bottom. Glad to always get feedback, good, bad. Otherwise, I can take it. I'm thick-skinned, so hopefully this helps you and gives you the courage to get out there and you know, work on your bike a little bit. Everybody's always freaked out. Hey guys, they're just bikes. You know, it's with a little bit of patience and a little bit of time, you can work on quite a bit of them on yourself. If you're not comfortable doing all this, I really encourage you, take it to a bike shop. Any reputable bike shop will be able to do this for you without any problem. May charge you a few bucks, but if you have any doubts about your abilities, take it to a bike shop. Again, a brake isn't something you want to have go out as you're flying down a hill. So now I'm gonna put that little cap on there and we'll be done. Alrighty, take the little cap, slide it on there, get you some nice lineman pliers, get down here on the tight end of this thing, get it in there nice and square, squish, and you're done. Thanks for watching, guys.